1858, 1972, and has a history that was put together in 2006 about the numerous hotels that actually existed in Indiana, or in Tell City. And I had made this presentation before, so I'll do just the William Tell part. The William Tell Hotel is actually two buildings. It was the Washington House was on the corner, and next to it, the one that you see frequently, the three-story building, was the commercial hotel. And it had been rebuilt about 1900 and had modern fire escapes, etc. But it was considered a very up-to-date place. But about 1918, the Chamber of Commerce realized that something must be done to revive the hotel business in Tell City. The commercial company was not successful. The stockholders didn't want to put in any more money. And so a meeting was held to decide what to do with the hotel. The actual hotel, the commercial hotel failed in 1919, and the Tell City Hotel Company purchased the building for $4,300 from a receiver sale, so it was into bankruptcy. The company then sold $26,000 of stock, preferred stock, $10,000 of common stock, and it was necessary to borrow another $30,000 in order to bring the hotel to what we know today, or what we recognize. So in 1920 it opened. The two buildings were actually combined together, and the east end of the third story was added to the Washington House, which was on the corner, the one that actually fell in, and the two buildings were connected. A brick wall was built across the front and the back to make it look like there was only one building, and a door was given on the front of the street to give access to the space between the two buildings. A single connecting hallway went through one building to the other on each floor. In other words, you could only get from one building to the other in one spot on each floor. And we think that was where the fire escape existed in the commercial hotel, because they would have been at the end of a hallway. And so at that hallway, they then merged over into the other one. And if you were in the building, and there are some pictures in here, you could see those covered walkways. From the third floor, you could look down and see the ones on the second floor. They left the windows in the building just as they were, so you could stand in the William Tell or the Washington House side and look out of your window into a window in the commercial hotel. So somebody once said, well, I got a room with a view, I can see the river on the other side. So that's how they hooked them together. Each room that did not have a private bath had a lavatory. The configuration of the hotel was regarded to room numbers changed during the years, but at the time the hotel sailed to a new owner in 1955, there were 50 sleeping rooms. At the time of its closing in 1972, there were 45 rooms available. Now, Anton Oberhausen, my grandfather, owned a plumbing and heating business located 2 blocks from the hotel in the 500 block of 8th Street, or Main Street. And he devised a way to provide an unusual service to the guests staying at the William Tell Hotel. About 1926, he constructed a heated garage on the rear of his property, and that garage is still there behind Reinhardt's. I think it's the restaurant that's there. It's that concrete block building up on the back. And his sons, Anthony, who was my father, and Louis, also known as Pud, would go to the hotel each evening and bring the patrons' cars to the heated garage. This was in the days prior to antifreeze, so that in the wintertime the cars would freeze up overnight if they weren't stored someplace that was heated. For a fee of 25 cents, the cars were washed, stored in the heated garage overnight, and returned to the hotel the following morning. Occasionally a trip would be added, and sometimes they would receive up to $1. for their efforts. Newspaper articles in the news regarding events associated with the hotel. And in 1938, there was one that said after the flood, they had to do a lot of refurbishing of the hotel. Over $5,000 had been spent on improvements. The flood waters in 1937 reached the floor of the front porch of the second floor. So it was almost to the top of that overhang out front. Many windows were broken due to stacks of lumber floating down the street from the furniture factory and the other plants up on that end of the town. The Tennessee Hotel Company was organized some 19 years earlier, and a group of citizens wanted to buy the hotel. And one of those, the first officers, when it was opened, were Ed Schultz was the president, Mike Cassidy was vice president, Chris Zerker, secretary treasurer, and the directors included M.P. Carr, Bomber Franz, M.J. Chrysler, and Winfield Eckley. In 1942, it was announced that F.J. Murphy had resigned as the manager of the hotel and had taken a position with another city. Miss Rose Brenner was chosen to manage the hotel. The dining room was converted into a coffee shop with interest on the corner of Main and Washington Streets. This allowed access without going through the lobby. It also in the article stated that a man would be on duty in the evening of the hotel office and would give Mrs. Brenner some free time. Now, my father always told the story, as one of the stockholders, that an ad was placed for a night clerk, and the job would also include mopping the kitchen floor. No responses were received to this ad, as the clerk felt that janitorial work was beneath them. So the ad was changed to that of a janitor was needed, with additional duties of tending the front desk. The position was quickly filled as the janitor was pleased to have the higher responsibilities of the desk clerk. A private dining room capable of seating 50 guests was added to the hotel in 1947. It went through the French doors, which contained an open area to a larger dining room. The smaller room was called the Swiss room, and on the west wall towards Main Street was a scene painted of Swiss mountains. The east wall of the Swiss room is the one that had the canvas that you see outside the door here. It was of William Tell, and it was painted in February 1947 by Nelson Wilson of Evansville. And recently in the paper, it talked about he also painted the murals at the Coliseum in Evansville. I've never seen those, and I don't know whatever happened to him. I have found nothing else about it. The hotel changed hands several times. There was a Mr. Gurney bought it in 1948, and they were going to redo it and make things out of it. They operated the hotel until 1950, and then it was sold to an Al Harding and a Clyde Kavanaugh of Evansville. The news stated the men would manage the 55-room hotel themselves and make every effort to popularize the dining room. At some point in the next 5 years, Al Harding became the sole owner, and improvements were made, almost every room redecorated and the plumbing renovated. In September 1955, the hotel was sold by Al Harding to Mrs. Otto Hieronymus and her son and daughter-in-law, Mrs. and Mrs. O.H. Hieronymus. They had been managing the hotel since February 6th, coming to Tell City from Sturgis, Kentucky. While managing the hotel, although this is actually wrong because he was not there at the time this occurred, but in 1955, March 29th, Ronald Reagan was here to tour GE in the city, and he never spent the night in the hotel, but he had a room there where he was to rest between his afternoon activities and the evening activities. I talked to Hieronymus when I did this book, and he said that one time he had the guest book where he had signed in, but it has all since disappeared. The Hieronymus family continued operating the hotel until its closing in 1972. A room renovation announcement appeared in the Tennessee News on September 8, 1966, and read as follows. A room renovation project at the Williamstown Hotel has been started recently, according to an announcement by O.H. Hieronymus, owner and operator of the hotel. Hieronymus said the program included paneling, tiling the ceiling in some rooms, and lowering the ceiling in others by use of grid installation process. He said 4 rooms of the 48-unit Williamstown Hotel have been repaneled to date. The ceiling in one room has been lowered, and in 3 others the ceiling has been covered with acoustical tile. Hotel manager said the renovation is part of a long-range improvement program that the management will continue to make improvements. In 2006, when this book was put together, I had the opportunity to go through the hotel, and at that time there were still just the 4 rooms that were paneled and the lower ceiling. So that's as far as they got. In 1959, the Lincoln Trail Inn opened. It found immediate success. 2 more additions and a restaurant and bar were added. The availability of modern rooms with private bath, easy access to the parking lot made the motel a more popular stop for travelers to Tell City. Although the Williamstown continued to operate for more than 10 years, the 50-year hotel could no longer compete with the newer modern facility. This brought an end in Tell City, the era where the downtown hotels were havens for visitors to the city and gathering places for important civic and social functions, having served as guests and citizens for more than 100 years. So that is a real brief history of the Williamstown Hotel, and I guess it's a real shame that it no longer stands. Yes, Bill.
Mark, wasn't there a poker game down there that never ended?
No, that's probably a Bears place.